Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And welcome to the IslamTech podcast. My name is Beyza Zayim. I am from Turkey, doing my PhD in artificial intelligence in healthcare at the Université Bourgogne in France. And I am part of the Islam and AI platform team. I'm passionate about using technology to serve people and faith. Joining us today is attorney Mehdi Ali. Mehdi is a PhD candidate in the Department of Religion at the University of Southern California, where he is completing his dissertation under the supervision of Dr. Sherman Jackson. Mehdi graduated with a GD from Stanford Law School in 2013. He also obtained a BA in International Relations and an MA in Sociology from Stanford University. Mehdi is a recipient of numerous fellowships and awards, including the Carnegie Center Fellowship at Yale Law School, Charlotte W. Newcomb Doctoral Dissertation Fellowship, Fulbright Scholarship, FLAS Fellowship, USC Teresa Wilson Endowed Fellowship, Stanford Chapel Logu Scholarship, Stanford Abbasi Program in Islamic Studies Fellowship, and the Stanford Center for South Asia Studies Fellowship. Prior to enrolling at USC, Mehdi co-authored the first major human rights investigation of US drone attacks in Pakistan and worked for the Honorable John T. Noran, Jr. At the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit. In addition to his academic work, Mehdi is also an avid book collector and travel writer. He has published several travelogues on his book buying adventures in countries around the world, including Iraq, Lebanon, Azerbaijan, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Bosnia. Mehdi, welcome to the podcast. It is such a pleasure to have you here.
Assalamu alaikum, Beza. Thank you so much for your kind introduction and for giving me the opportunity to come on your podcast. I am very excited to be here today.
I'm sure it will be so informative, and I am also so excited. So let's start. Our topic today, AI in Islamic studies, opportunities, pedagogies, and pitfalls. AI is changing how we study Islam, but it also brings big questions about accuracy, ethics, and learning. So today we will talk about some topics, starting with how AI helps us to study Islam, then how teaching way is changing with AI, then the limitation of AI, and finally how users and researchers use AI responsibly. With your background in law, Mehdi, what first sparked your interest in how AI connects with Islamic studies?
Sure. Just to give you a little bit of background, yes, I got a law degree in 2013, and then I practiced law for about 5 years before I went into Islamic studies. So for the past 6.5 years, I've been working on my PhD in Islamic law. And I think ChatGPT kind of revolution happened, if I remember correctly, maybe around fall of 2022. And there was just so much discussion online about it that I was just curious. What is this AI thing everyone's talking about? And I remember the first thing I did was I took an Arabic text that I was studying, and I just put in a couple lines from it into ChatGPT, and I was really shocked at the speed and the accuracy of the translation. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about accuracy of translations, but in 2022, about 2.5 years ago, it was really like a very surprising thing for me that this new world of AI. So that piqued my initial interest in AI, and then as my studies progressed, as AI became more well known and prevalent, and more extensively used in religious studies, that's when I started to think about, what are the benefits, but also the pitfalls. And I think, in one of the articles that I wrote about AI, I mentioned reading a scholar of Judaism and a scholar of Christianity's experience with translation. And that's really what got me started thinking about, what are kind of the revolutionary potentials of this technology. And there a lot of people are now talking about this. You may have seen Harvard University's program in Islamic law. They've also released a series of articles about the intersection of AI and Islamic law. So I mean, there's a lot to discuss here. There's a lot of potential, and I think we're just at the tip of the iceberg. In the next few years, next decade or so, we're going to see um, a lot of changes in pedagogy, in transmission of knowledge. So I think it's a very exciting, but also a very perilous time.
Yes, exactly. AI is coming, and we should adapt our life with the AI. And as you said, some AI's advantages. I will ask you, would you say AI is disrupting traditional learning, or is it just another tool helping us explore our tradition in new ways?
I think it's a little bit of both. Um, just like the advent of the internet, it definitely disrupted traditional learning, right? Because now you didn't have to necessarily uh, go to the Middle East, for example, to obtain a lesson from a scholar. I mean, it democratized knowledge in many ways. But then also, the internet helped a lot of scholars that were already trained become better at their craft. And I think AI has just accentuated that trend. I mean, talking about democratization of knowledge, anybody can go to ChatGPT. I mean, at least with Google, you have to go search and read through some of the links that come up, right? With AI, you don't even have to do that. Information is spoon fed to you, but there's great danger to that as well, especially because AI is known to hallucinate. So yes, it's disrupted learning. Uh, whether it's always a good thing, I mean, that's a big question mark. I think there's a lot of pitfalls. And then for the people who use it responsibly, yeah, it is a great tool. But at the same time, there is also something to be said about the old way of obtaining knowledge, right? Traveling to a place, learning at the feet of a scholar, reading a physical book, writing notes. I mean, slowly but surely, these things are becoming more and more ancient. And I for one am someone, I don't mean to be against technology, but I do think there's a lost art there. And I don't think, just typing something into ChatGPT is quite the same as going to a library, searching for a book, looking at the index, reading through the text, and trying to figure out an answer. I think sometimes it's great. It's great to have more convenience, but I think sometimes you need that intensive labor process to really absorb and learn something.
Exactly. So we can say it has risks, and also we will talk about this in the next questions. But it has a lot of advantages as well, as you said. For example, it restores damaged ancient manuscripts. It just came to my mind because it's really hard to read from the faded text, from damaged pages, and AI can use imaging techniques to analyze it under different wavelengths. It can predict the most probable missing words or phrases in a damaged section, Also, I saw an AI created video that gives us historical illustration to make us live in the same atmosphere, to go to history. Like we can live the same atmosphere by watching just this AI created video, and it's really. I was so excited to watch this video actually.
I guess my question for you is though, isn't it better to leave that to our imagination? That would be
Yeah.
my response, right? AI is great, but you lose something when you reduce your imagination to an AI created video. But yeah, on your point about manuscripts, I mean, I've seen many articles about this. Like I think I cannot remember the exact details, but I remember seeing something about maybe it was some ancient Egyptian scroll that like for hundreds of years they've not been able to like uh, decipher what it says, and they're like afraid to like unwrap the manuscript because that might damage it. But now with AI, they're able to like deduce or translate what it says. So, I mean, there's a lot of, and I've used it too. I mean, with manuscripts, just to get an idea sometimes of what the text might be saying. To be honest, the results have not been great from what I've seen, but I think part of that might have to do with AI and Arabic being a little bit behind AI and other languages. And people have written about this. I mean, part of the problem is there just have not been enough Arabic language texts that have been converted into like a machine readable format. And you probably know more about this than I do, being a PhD student in computer science. But I think, yeah, there's a lot of work to be done with respect to Arabic language materials and their usability with AI.
Yes, I was going to this Arabic language part actually. So let's dig into where AI is already making a difference. We are seeing it pop up in all sorts of areas: Quran study apps, Hadith research, learning Arabic, even searching through vast fatwa databases and preserving ancient manuscripts. On the topic of language, for someone struggling to learn classical Arabic, how can AI tools like advanced translators or language models actually help them grasp a deeper meaning of an old text more quickly and clearly?
This, and I wrote about this in my article. I mean, this is the biggest minefield when it comes to artificial intelligence. If someone is really trying to learn Arabic, I would really advise them from not using AI as a crutch, because if you do this, you'll never learn the language. So, and everyone's access, opportunities, capabilities are different. But I think Arabic language instruction is available pretty much everywhere now. Definitely in Turkey. I mean, you have a million places you could go to. But even in the US, where I'm based, I mean, it's very common to be able to find Arabic language courses. And by the way, you can find online Arabic language courses too, and very good courses. You can find tutors. So I would really try to stay away from AI. Learn how to speak the language, learn the grammar, learn how to use the dictionaries. I think AI can be helpful, if you're at an advanced stage, like I've written in my article, which I think that's how you first contacted me. I mean, it's great to give you perhaps a synthesis of what's being written, sometimes whether in English or Arabic, or perhaps if you need a quick translation of a page. But if you're looking to do some sort of scholarly work or publication, you cannot rely on AI. I mean, the amount of inaccuracies is just too high. I mean, you can never produce the output from AI without verification. And definitely as a learning tool, I think your primary your primary tool should not be AI initially. Now, I think it depends. I mean, if you have an understanding of the language, but you have specific questions, I think AI could help. I've used AI too, to explain certain concepts, but I never use it as authoritative. So if for example, ChatGPT tells me, this is how the voweling works on this word, I'll always go back and check the dictionary or I'll check the grammar book. Maybe that's just me being paranoid, but I have a hard time taking AI's word as authoritative. And I would be curious to hear what you think as well.
You're totally right because AI is not always giving the accurate results. It is scanning a lot of databases. Like it is really good, actually, tool to help us to, for example, instead of reading a lot of books, it will take a lot of time, but AI can scan all of the information and it can give us the result. But the important thing is how we are questioning, how we are putting this comment there. Like each word is important when we are giving this to I think this is also important, but you are totally right that firstly it is better to try to learn from the traditional like sources. Then we can, for example, understand if it is right or wrong.
Exactly. I think, and like everything else, I think you need to have responsible use. I mean, you cannot use AI unsupervised when you're doing something important, like learning the Arabic language or learning Islamic law, because at the end of the day, it's not a real person, right? I mean, it's a tool that's based on certain inputs and certain pattern recognition techniques, but it doesn't have that human element, that human discretion, that human learning. Um, so it's a tool like any other tool, but it cannot be used unsupervised or without some checks and balances.
So as we talked about, it is we need to think critically, like when we write a comment to AI. So beyond just being a fast search engine, I'm talking about the classroom. Beyond just being a fast search engine, how can teachers actually build AI into their lessons to get students to think more deeply about the Quran or Hadith rather than just memorizing facts?
This is a good question. um, Harvard Law School has I think a AI, they call it an AI lab for their program in Islamic law. And what they have been doing is basically they'll ask AI certain questions and then they'll actually go and find the answers in the actual textbooks, and they do an analysis of what percentage of the answers are correct or how accurate are the answers that AI is giving. Um, I think in terms of the classroom specifically, um, it's a good question. I mean, I don't know. I don't know that there is a great use of AI. Well, okay, I guess what kind of classroom are you talking about? Are you talking in religious studies?
Yes, especially the like for example Islamic laws. I'm just thinking like this way. For example, the exam way instead of like asking a specific question, maybe the teachers can because teacher knows that everybody is using AI, so maybe students should know how to use it. Like for example, the teacher can ask a question, but the students can ask this question to many different AI sources. And then they can critically analyze all the answers and think critically and make their own reply on this question, something like this.
You know, I think I'm just thinking of my advisor. Uh, he would never accept the use of AI in the classroom. And his reasoning would be that the real questions the meta questions about Islamic law, about Islamic legal history, about Islamic theology, AI will never be able to answer. Sure, if you ask AI, and I do this too sometimes, I'm like, okay, there's a verse in the Quran about, I don't know, being kind to your parents. What verse and chapter is that? I could Google it. I'll probably find it in like a minute. I could probably use ChatGPT. I'll find it in like 10 seconds. So for certain discrete questions like that, AI is a great tool. But if I ask it, for example, why is it that God has revealed this verse that talks about being kind to your parents? The AI might even be able to give you like asbab and nuzul, right? Like the cause of the revelation, what were the historical circumstances, but it won't be able to think critically about what the verse is saying, what is the intent, what is it supposed to do to us as human beings, to what does the Quranic revelation, what is its purpose with respect to humans? Like, I think some of those broader questions AI can never answer. AI will be good at spitting out facts. It will be, if you give it a prompt saying, what do you think is a possible reason for X, Y, and Z, it will give you that. So I think in the classroom, if you're asking it factual questions, that's fine. But I think if you're a teacher, and especially at an advanced level, you're asking questions that AI is able to answer, then I think there needs to be a rethinking of what the classroom is looking like. If you're talking about maybe a beginning level course where you're perhaps, you are talking about memorizing facts, that's fine. But I don't see how AI can really be used, not even just responsibly, but competently at an advanced level. I mean, I just don't trust that AI has that capability to answer those big questions that drive us in Islamic studies.
I see. AI can, for example, analyze thousands of past fatwas or financial cases. However, maybe it cannot reply the like very big questions, as you said.
Exactly. It might. Exactly. Maybe, you know, if you say under this circumstance, right, what is the likelihood, based on these 1,000 fatwa that I've given you, what is the likelihood that the answer is yes versus no? And it can give you that. Fine. Um, but, you know, I'm still skeptical. Like, that's not how humans work, right? We work based on percentage. Like, that's what it's. This is exactly how many times they've done it in the past. So this is probably what it should be now. I mean, each individual fatwa has a history. It has a thought process, and I think unfortunately AI is too bound by its input in producing an output. So I don't know. I'm as I'm talking, I'm realizing I'm sounding a little like I'm, anti-technology or anti-AI. I'm really not. But I think I still yearn for that old world, where AI is not dominating every aspect of our lives. Because I think, forget our generation. What about our kids' generation or the generation after our kids? I mean, they won't even know. And by the way, I had this experience because I teach at my university. I'm a TA for a course in Introduction to Islam, and I had a student who could not afford to buy a book, and our assignment was she has to write a report about a book. And I said, okay, that's okay. Well, why don't you go to the library? And I'm not kidding you. Her response was, why would I go to the library? So this student, who was a fourth year university student at the University of Southern California, did not know that you can borrow books from the library. So, and that's happening now in 2025. Imagine where we'll be in 2075.
Yes, actually, it is scary for the next generation that maybe they even won't know what library is. Like, it's really scary.
Exactly.
Uh,
And maybe, our political leaders, I don't know about Turkey, but definitely in the US, they may not even want libraries. The way things are going here. They might think it's a waste of money.
Yes, and now actually I want to ask very important question about the human elements. How do we preserve the feeling of halika? Like, halika, like the that warm discussion and personal reflection when we are using something as impersonal as computer. Where does the teacher's role remain absolutely essential?
So, what is your question exactly? And by halaka, you mean like a group kind of discussion, right?
Yeah, for example, one scholar is teaching one something to their students, and these students are teaching this way to their students. So there is a discussion environment, like personal discussions and the experiences they can. But nowadays, like people just depend on the AI and the computer. Even they don't want to listen there, even parents, because they think like computer or AI knows better than them, like the parents or the people who have experiences. So
Yeah, I think we have to hold on dearly to those personal discussions. I mean, again, I can only tell you from my experience. My teacher is a graduate of Al Azhar in Egypt, and when he teaches us, I mean, we have basically 3 4 hour discussions. No technology, no computer, just going line by line through the legal text or the theological text. And even Zoom, I don't like to do it. I mean, because I live about 1 hour drive from my university, and sometimes it can be 2 hours with traffic. And if the teacher ever suggests Zoom, I say no. Like, I want to do it in person. I don't care if it's raining, because there's just something else. By the way, it's not just about the knowledge. It's not just about the answer. It's also about the adab, right? About learning how to convey knowledge, about learning how to absorb that knowledge, how to talk to your teacher. I mean, all of this is part of the Islamic education. It's not just the answer that the AI will give you. I mean, all the answers are already on the internet. I mean, we need teachers because learning it's a holistic process. So yeah, I mean, for people who think AI knows more than their parents or teachers, yeah, perhaps AI has more access to factual information, but AI will never be a better teacher to you or a better mother or father to you. So I think it's misguided, it's short-sighted, and I think we'll start to see kind of the effects on broader society in the coming years, if that is indeed how people view personal relationships.
exactly. And we also need to talk about the challenges and limits of AI. So it's really important for the people who really trust this AI replies. So, how well can today's AI really understand the differences between schools of law like Hanafi and Maliki, or the social and political background behind an old fatwa?
Could you explain your question exactly?
Like AI, when we ask a question about the differences between schools of law like Hanafi and Maliki, AI gives us a reply, but based on what, how it really understand this difference and the social and political background behind old fatwas. So how can AI can understand all of these and give us the reply?
If you're asking how it currently does it, I don't know. I think you might know better than me. I mean, I think part of the issue is, like I was saying, there's just not enough input for AI to produce a proper output. So I don't know how it's currently doing it, but I can assure you, if I asked AI, a question and said, give me the Hanafi perspective, give me the Maliki perspective, uh, it might get the answer right, but I would venture to guess there's a high likelihood it's going to oversimplify. Um, it might give, and if I ask, it might not give any reference. And if I ask it for a reference, it might make up a reference. Um, so, and that's not to say I wouldn't ask it anyways, just to get its opinion. Sometimes I'll ask, like, do you have any suggestions for books I should look at? I'd say many of the time that offers useful information, but sometimes it's, offers information that's completely incorrect or non-existent. So if you're asking me like a question about how it can be fixed, I think I'm not the right person for that. But there are several initiatives that are taking place right now. I think in Egypt, in Qatar, a lot of people are working on digitizing these texts, these manuscripts, and there's websites. I mean, Shamila is not an AI driven website, but it has a lot of digital texts or a lot of texts that have been digitized. There's Usul.ai that's trying to use AI in conjunction with digitizing text. So there's a lot of efforts that are taking place. I think a lot of smart people are thinking about these issues. So I'm not sure I'm qualified to answer how it needs to change, but I think what I can say is if I had a question about the difference between the Maliki opinion and the Hanafi opinion on something, I would not go to AI as my authoritative source. I would open up a book, that a scholar has written, that a respected press has published. Uh, you know, Peer review. We need to ensure that that lasts, right? So people can check each other's scholarship and ensure that the rigors of that scholarship, the standards remain high.
Yes, exactly. What I know about this procedure, how AI gives the answer, is that so I saw actually a website. It's called islamanai.com. It's like AI. You can ask questions and it gives reply based on some resources. So how it depends how you train this AI. So while training this AI, if you used very authenticated sources, then it can give more accurate results. But if it just analyze everything without choosing some authentic resources, of course the accuracy will decrease.
Yeah, there's evidence, of course, that when the models are trained on smaller data sets, the answers are more accurate. But it's still not 100%. So this is an issue. And, and again, I don't mean to discourage the use of AI. I think there's a lot of potential, but I think people just need to be aware that this is
Yes.
not a replacement for human beings.
Yes, I totally agree with you, actually. And actually, for the responsibility, if an AI generates a legal answer, who is responsible for it? Like the developer of this AI or the user? So, who is the responsible one?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. Uh, and remember, it's not just responsible in this world; it's also responsible in the afterlife, right? If AI is
Exactly.
giving you the wrong answer, uh, yeah, that's a big burden to carry. So, especially these apps that are like, they're trained on AI, but they're offering like fatwas, for example. I think you have to be very careful. I mean, just like a scholar, if a scholar takes the responsibility of saying, okay, I will represent the Islamic tradition, and if someone asks me a legal question, I will answer that question. That's a huge burden to carry. Now, the problem with AI is it's not a scholar, it's a tech developer, who's building this technology. So it's a great question. I don't know if there's a clear answer, but I think it's one of those ethical quandaries we need to consider.
Yes, because it really affects our life, and as you said, afterlife as well. So it's really important that we need to understand who developed this AI as well. Because I just want to tell something about Israel. Like I heard that this country is giving some money, like funding some companies who is like developing AI, and they want them not to say bad words for this country. So it's uh, like how can I say, it's integrates, it's manipulates like about the politics, or it's like propaganda actually, but it's sometimes really dangerous to know the right reply.
I think with AI, that touches on what I was saying, right? Is we don't know what the input is. So this question of, is Israel giving money to these companies? I'm not aware of that, but I do know, when I asked ChatGPT to describe what's going on in Gaza, for example, it says it's very complicated, right? And it refuses to use the word genocide. So I don't know what it is. I mean, is it that it's propaganda? Is it that it's a deliberate attempt, or is the input really bad? I'm not sure, but clearly something is going on, because what we witnessed was a genocide. So there should be no reason that the AI should be saying that that is complicated, because it was not complicated. I mean, we have 67,000 people that are recorded to have died. Of course, the real numbers, estimates are as high as 400,000, 500,000. So, I mean, that again it goes back to my point. I mean, certainly AI is not reliable in that case. What's the reason for that? I don't know.
Yes, exactly. Even it gives the wrong answers, we will always speak up, and we will tell to our new generation and our children, so we can like we can say the truth. Okay, so for the next session, we will talk about the guidance for teachers and scholars. So when a scholar uses AI to help with research or writing, I'm talking about researchers because they can use AI, and I think all of us are using AI in some points. How open should they be about that? What's the right way to keep honesty and academic integrity?
That's a great question. Um, because I don't know how to answer that. I mean, you're right. Everyone is using AI. And I was just reading an article today, even for example, are you familiar with Shamila?
Gemini?
No, Shamila. It's
No.
uh, it's an online website that hosts a lot of Islamic texts, about 7,000 Islamic texts. So most Islamic studies researchers, they'll search for texts on that website, but no one will actually cite to it in their work. So, for example, let's say I want to know if a certain topic is talked about. I check in Shamila, I find a source, and then what most people will do is then they'll go to the library, find that book, and then cite to the physical book. They will not note that their initial search uh, uh, was provided to them from this online website. It's not an AI. I mean, it's not AI. It's just like a website with like 7,000 books online. So most people are not even being open about that. Now, when it comes to AI, I think the problem is much larger because AI could be helping you brainstorm ideas. AI could be helping you translate, tricky words. AI could be helping you summarize long articles, and maybe you went back and authenticated each of those things individually. But are people then attributing any part of their work to AI? I don't think most people are, and I think that is a discipline-wide or industry-wide discussion that needs to happen. That what is appropriate, uh, because clearly everyone is using AI, definitely to differing degrees. But if you read the scholarship, I think there's no acknowledgement that AI has played a role. On the other hand, one could argue it's just a tool, just like the internet is a tool. I mean, no one is going to acknowledge the internet in their acknowledgement section. So it's a good question. I don't think I have a definitive answer for you.
Okay, and do you think we need stronger partnerships between Islamic scholars and AI developers so the tools themselves are built with proper understanding of Islamic thought from the start?
I think that would be a great. I think that would be a great idea. Um, yeah, I think that would definitely be helpful. I think that's probably happening as well. I think the bigger question is who speaks for Islam, right? Who are the right scholars?
Yes.
And I think that's a problem not just for AI. I mean, that's a problem generally in the world. Everyone or many people want to be that authoritative scholarly voice, and sometimes it's not clear how much of that is just for the fame versus sincere devotion to the propagation of knowledge. So I think the bigger question is who is going to be the one that will be supervising. But yeah, I think definitely we should not have developers with no background, for example, you know. And I mean, just as an example of this, like, I don't know if you have an iPhone, but for example, I have an app on my phone called Muslim Pro. It shows me the direction of the Qibla and it tells me the prayer
Yes.
times. But then sometimes the advertisements on it are completely un-Islamic, right?
Hmm.
Like they might be for certain type of products that a Muslim would not want to be looking at or using. And so it just made me think like who developed this app? Even if it was a Muslim, I mean, clearly there should have been some supervision here.
Yes, exactly. You're right. And these advertisements also affects the children if they
Yes.
don't know. Yeah,
Yes.
when they see visually, it really affects them, and it's really hard to hard for parents to like prevent those kind of advertisements.
By the way, not just children, even adults. I
Yeah.
mean, we are not immune to what's around us, even though we think we are. Even things that we know are bad and we try to avoid them, they still have an impact on our psyche. So I don't think it's just kids, it's adults as well.
Yes, yeah, exactly. You're right. And finally, can AI ever be a tool for Ijtihad itself, or is it really just a helper, something that gathers and organizes information so human scholar can make the final judgment?
No, I would never rely on AI for ijtihad. I mean, just
Yes.
like if you were in a hospital and someone is dying, I mean, would you ask AI to make the final determination of what medication to give?
In
No,
yeah,
no, right? I mean, I hope not. I'm not going to that hospital. You want
exactly.
you want a human who understands how life works, making the final decision. I think no, there's no chance. I don't care how advanced the technology is. I will never, I can never see a world where ijtihad is being conducted by a computer. Just like there's never a world where medicine is final decision is being conducted by uh, a computer. I mean, there are other areas where computers are doing everything, like driving cars, for example. But then where does that lead us when there's a car accident, for example? Who's responsible? Right now, it's not clear. I mean, is it the company that built the car? Because there's no passenger in there. So I don't know. I think that's a very dangerous road, but it might be the one we're all going towards. So I don't know.
Yes. Mahdi, this has been such an insightful conversation. We talked about how AI can make Islamic studies faster and richer, but also about why we must use it carefully with good teaching, strong ethics, and respect for human judgment. For young Muslims today, maybe someone studying computer science, law, or Islamic studies who wants to combine faith and technology, what's one piece of advice you'd give them?
I think I would say two things. One, make sure to have a good intention. And I know it sounds simple, but it's very hard. Just understand why you're doing what you're doing. If you're doing it for the sake of God, that will make whatever challenges come your way much easier to navigate. And two, at least in Islamic studies, I think you need a good teacher because I think that otherwise the world and information out there is too difficult to navigate. And again, I think for those of your listeners that are in Turkey, you have a big advantage because there are many, many, many learned scholars in that country. But even in other places, I mean, scholars can be found everywhere. And in my experience, it's usually the scholars who don't say, "Hey, I'm a scholar," right? It's the scholars who are quiet, who are going away from the attention. Those are the ones that are the best teachers in my experience.
Yes, your advices were so good. One of them is good intention, other one is good teacher. They're so important things. Before we end, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to leave us with?
I don't have anything in particular. I mean, it has been wonderful to join your podcast. I'm so happy that we have people like you thinking about these important questions for Islamic society. Like I mentioned in the beginning, I think you're really onto something here because our society, is about to change rapidly. I mean, we're already seeing it, but as AI becomes more and more embedded into our lives, especially as the next generation grows up, without ever having seen a world without AI, the sociological effects are going to become much more pronounced. So I'm very happy that people like you are starting to think about the big questions to see how we can be responsible about our use of AI and to perhaps counter some of the negative effects of it and harness some of the positive aspects of it. So that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and I'd love to keep this conversation going. I'd love to keep in touch as you move forward with this podcast.
Thank you so much. And it was very nice conversation as well. And one last thing, if you could leave a single question for our listeners to think about, what would it be? So, for example, for the next podcast, we can discuss about it. So listeners can also think about it and can comment on after uploading this record to YouTube.
Okay. Could I get back to you after this call, and maybe you could put it in the comments of the video?
Sure.
Yeah. Let me think
Uh,
about it.
Okay, Mehdi, thank you so much for your time and wisdom. And to all our listeners, thank you for joining us. The scholars of the future will not be those who reject AI, nor those who blindly depend on it. They will be those who combine the discipline of traditional scholarship with the analytical power of modern technology. When used wisely, AI can help Muslims fulfill the Quranic call to reflect, ponder, and seek knowledge. May Allah help us use technology for good, to spread truth, and seek knowledge that benefits. Until next time, stay curious, stay grounded, and stay true to your purpose. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.